Okay, John, as we're talking about permanently stabilizing your walls, a lot of our homeowners really appreciate understanding what caused these problems and how they came into the situation to begin with. So, to better help answer those questions, I have a few short slides here that I'm going to share with you just to help give you a better understanding of what causes wall failure in the first place, okay? So, essentially, what we're working with here are three main parts of the foundation. You have your footing, your concrete floor, and your foundation wall. Now, all these are typically constructed over various points in time. Okay, so they essentially don't make one cohesive unit, they essentially just rest on top of one another. And now, what we're working with are two main types of soil. You have compacted virgin soil, which gets naturally compacted over time through hundreds, if not thousands, of years. Essentially, that soil hasn't been touched. And then you have loose backfill soil. And now, what that is when your foundation is constructed, contractors will push all that soil back in towards the void of which they had to dig down into to create your foundation, okay? And also, I just want to preface this as I'm going through these slides, feel free to stop me at any time. I want to make sure that this is tracking for you, okay? So far, is all of this making sense? Well, perfect. I'm glad to hear that. So, we get on to our first main cause, which essentially that loose backfill soil is going to create something called an active wedge or unstable soil. Now, this is a problem because that loose backfill soil weighs thousands of pounds. Okay, so it's essentially just bearing down and putting a lot of pressure on your foundation walls. Okay, and then from there, that loose backfill soil wasn't properly compacted to begin with. So when you have wet seasons or rainy weather, all that water likes to follow the path of least resistance. So what it's going to do in turn is seep down all through that loose backfill soil and create something that we call hydrostatic pressure. Now, to put into perspective, a gallon of water weighs anywhere from 8 to 9 pounds, okay? So you can see how this is causing a lot more pressure on your already unstable walls, right? Okay. And then we have something called frost or thawing. So in the winter months, all that water it's going to do is it's going to freeze, right? And when water freezes, it expands it. It expands about 9%. So, and in turn, once again, it's going to create a lot of pressure on those foundation walls, okay? So you may be asking yourself at this point, well, Connor, what are my options, right? So for options, there historically have been three main options for repair. You have do nothing, do it yourself, or hire a contractor. Now, if you do nothing, essentially all that's going to happen is that problem is going to end up becoming worse, right? And as Newton puts it, an object that's in motion tends to stay in motion. So what you could do essentially is have an engineer come out and monitor it over time. However, that engineer isn't living in the home. You are, right? So this could be an issue down the line if it's not properly addressed. And again, do it yourself or DIY. And honestly, in today's day and age, I can see why this might be a good route to go for most homeowners. However, nowadays, a lot of homeowners don't have the proper equipment, proper materials, or proper expertise to deal with a foundation problem like this. And as I mentioned before, we're a specialty contractor, so we see thousands of projects like this all the time. Okay? And lastly, what you can do is you can hire a contractor. Now, with contractors, I like to say they're a jack of all trades, but a master at none. And most of the time, what that contractor is going to do is just subcontract somebody else to come in and replace your whole foundation. Now, I do want to preface this real quick. I don't mean to bring up this slide to scare you, okay? A full foundation replacement takes a lot of time of neglect and not properly addressing the issue. So this could be something that you might have to deal with down the line, but we're not at this point yet, okay? However, the main problem with foundation replacement is that what they essentially have to do is excavate around your entire home. That means any utilities, gas lines, water lines, sewer lines, HVAC systems, that beautiful new patio that you just put in, that all has to come out, okay? And also, it takes a really long time, okay? Like I said, or as I was saying, concrete takes anywhere from 28 to 30 days for it to properly cure. And as I was mentioning before, your foundation is composed of three main parts. So essentially what they're going to have to do is build the forms for your footing, wait 28 to 30 days for that to properly cure, and then they're going to have to build the forms for the foundation wall and wait another 28 to 30 days for that to properly cure. So essentially you're looking like being out of your home for 60 days. Does that sound like something you want to explore? Well, I'm glad to hear that. So does it make sense as why all these historic options for repair aren't the best solution for you? I'm glad to hear that. So you might be asking, well, what is my solution then, right? So here at Groundworks, we created something that's called the Settle Stop Wall Anchor System. Now, our engineering department has put together this short video clip that explains this at a really high level. I'm going to have you watch this, and then afterwards we'll go a little bit more in depth as to how the system works and how it's properly installed, okay?
When the walls that support your home begin cracking, leaning, and bowing, you may begin to wonder, is this house safe? Unstable walls can create doubt and concern for both homeowners and home buyers alike. When basement walls become a safety concern, the Settle Stop Wall Anchor system is the answer. Each Settle Stop wall anchor consists of a galvanized plate that's connected to an earth anchor with a high-density 1-inch steel rod. The wall anchor is tightened to combat the forceful soil pressure, which commonly causes walls to fail. The Settle Stop wall anchor system is durable, minimally invasive, and can be installed in as little as 1 day. The installation is straightforward. First, a small excavation takes place approximately 12 feet from your foundation wall. Next, a 1-inch hole is drilled through the basement wall. Then, the 1-inch steel rod is driven to the excavation point outside and attached to the heavy-duty earth anchor. And once in place, the steel plate is mounted on your wall and then tightened to the engineered specified torque reading. Your basement wall is now anchored in dense, stable soils. The Settle Stop wall anchor system is great for customers who want immediate stabilization and adjustability over time. The low-profile wall plates fit between wall studs and are ideal for future basement finishing. The Settle Stop wall anchor system is backed by a lifetime transferable warranty, so there's no need to worry about the structural stability of your foundation wall. We'd rather have you focus on the more important things in life.
Pretty cool stuff, huh? So to paint a little bit more of an in-depth picture, essentially what we're here's a visual representation of what this actually looks like, okay? And essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure out where we're gonna put those wall anchors, okay? And these are engineered spacing, so we do 2 feet from the corners and then 5 feet off center for every single one of the anchors. All right, from there, we're gonna drill holes in the foundation wall and we're gonna drill them at about a 10-degree angle. Now, we do this so that no water can seep into your foundation, okay? And then as he mentioned, we're gonna excavate around 12 feet from your foundation wall to then install what we call an earth plate. So to put this in a better perspective, think of like a vise. As you tighten it, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. That's essentially what we're going to be doing for your foundation wall, okay? And from there, the wall plate is installed, and then we're going to tighten it to the engineered specifications, okay? And then we just put the soil back and pretend like we were never even there, okay? So based upon this information, does this sound like the right solution for you? Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Let me go and add a few of these to the cart, and then we'll get started on your proposal, okay?